Greetings, everyone.
Let's get dangerous.
This is so cool.
I know.
It feels so right.
It's Jake, Ciely.
He's opening our minds to new ideas. Kill him!
Who is that guy?
Your mama. You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you're serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in fantasy. Days of the ranks.
Sure, we talk about it all the time. Really? No. Burn.
Game on, you Ducks. It is week 8 of the fantasy football season, and boom, right off the top. Well, by the time you're listening to this, it's probably been about an hour or so, but boom, off the top, we have a trade, another one, and we have another big trade, another big wide receiver to another big team. I don't think it gets much better from a real life perspective to go from a 1-5 team to a 6-0 team, or 7-0, or 6-0, right? Wait, I don't even know anymore. Like, I'm just so caught up in the face. Like, what the hell are their records anyway? I know there's 1. There's 6.
Yeah, they had the bye. Just had the bye, and then beat the Niners. Yeah, only know that because Andy Reid's unbelievable record after a bye.
I was trying to remember who's had buys and who hasn't had buys so far.
It's tough to keep up with the buys.
We have no buys this week, strangely enough.
Yeah.
So, anyway, let's get to it right off the top. DeAndre Hopkins headed to the Chiefs. That's the big news of today. So we know that Cooper Kupp, all of a sudden yesterday, not a shock, it's something we kind of talked about. It was like, why aren't the Rams floating out Cooper Kupp? And then yesterday we get the report that the Rams are actually actively calling teams saying, we'll take a chunk of his money if you give us a second. So anyway, Cooper Kupp's still around, not going to the Chiefs, but DeAndre Hopkins is going to the Chiefs. Here's my take, Chris Meaney. It's obviously better, as I'm going to knock that toy out of Barkley's mouth if you can hear it in the background. And of course, as soon as we start the podcast.
I'm here for it. I love it.
So DeAndre Hopkins, obviously better, but the biggest thing here is this version of DeAndre Hopkins I actually think works. Like, if you said DeAndre Hopkins, I actually think no matter what, it works. But I think that this version of DeAndre Hopkins is somewhat similar to what Juju Smith-Schuster was going to do until he got hurt, or was doing in that one game, and Rashee Rice is doing, is that short to intermediate areas, like where Hopkins is kind of lived now. They've actually even used him somewhat in the slot. And I think this works. But game 1, I think we're going to see more of Amari Cooper, where maybe 15, 20 snaps, routes, and then he ticks up from there. New offense, have to learn it and all that type of stuff. But at the same time, this is somebody who hasn't been 100% healthy. Like, they've already had to clarify and speculate, hey, should be ready for week 8. Sounds like he should play, but who knows? So I put him in the wide receiver 40 range, just as I updated my rankings this morning, right before we did this. I'll tell you actually right where I sandwiched him. I actually moved down Xavier Worthy too, because Xavier Worthy just doesn't see very many touches. And so I go, apparently I'm crazy on Xavier Worthy. You could fact check me on this one, or not fact check, rank check me, Chris Meaney. I go Jacoby Myers at 40 because the volume is insane. By the way, from my article today, you want to hear something nuts? Despite missing 2 games, despite Devontae Adams being with this team for the first 3 weeks, Jacoby Myers is still second on the Raiders in targets. Isn't that insane to think about? That's how bad it's been. But so I have Jacoby at 40 because he should just see a ton of volume similar to Wan'Dale Robinson, but can do more than Wan'Dale can. So I have Jacoby at 40, Xavier Worthy now at 41. I had him in the 30s before this, the high-end 30s, but I knocked him all the way down here because he wasn't getting a lot of volume to begin with. And even though it's Hopkins' first game, still don't see a lot of volume. It's basically touchdown or bust for him. Tutu Atwell at 42. And then Judy at 43. Against the Ravens, the volume should be there. And then Hopkins at 44. Sutton with a big fat 0 last week at 45. Does that feel about right for you?
Yeah, I have Worthy at 39, so we're on the same page there with Worthy.
Yeah, we're the smart ones.
That was before the trade, so I'm actually probably going to bump him down even
further.
I
initially had him at 34 behind Mooney, so we weren't that far off.
Yeah, my thinking is just in this game where they're 10-point favorites against the Raiders that they're just going to run the football. We're going to see everybody.
That's the other thing.
A little bit of steal and
yeah.
So I didn't feel like. Just with Worthy, even last week in a game where it felt like they kind of needed him until the fourth quarter, he had 8 targets, but he wasn't really touching the football. I think this is a good real-life move for the Chiefs. They're still not going to be explosive. I think you said it right. Like, he's kind of short and intermediate type stuff. somebody that Patrick Mahomes can rely on in third down situations and throw it up, and he can make a play for him. So it is really good in real life, but something that this offense is missing is that explosiveness. But they can only do so much, up against the cap. Like I'm sure they would love to have Cooper Kupp, but it's just not going to work out for them. So moving forward, obviously this is better for him. People in my chat now, Calvin Ridley will get all the targets. So he wasn't catching any of those targets that he was getting, but there's no competition for him to get looks. Maybe Rudolph can be better for him than clearly Will Levis was, but I think in the 40s is fine.
I have Calvin Ridley in front of all those people we talked about, by the way. I'm at 38. I would still go. I
was going to say, I originally had him in the late 40s, but he's moved up now ahead of those guys with the move.
So I have him just behind McConkey, Shakir, Dobbs. Very similar wide receivers, by the way. And then there's somebody else we're going to talk about later that I skipped over that I have in front of him, which, as of today, I seem to be super ridiculously high on? Question mark? Maybe? I don't know. Real quick, though.
I think we're going to be on the same page with that guy, too.
Oh, so you know who I'm talking about. Interesting.
I think so.
You think so? Does he his name rhyme with Caden Jerillin?
Yeah. I see consensus on him at 57. I think people are just snoozing. Maybe they haven't put the ranking in yet. I don't know.
I say this all the time on the comments, and it's actually, there's a blurb right before you get to the rankings, everybody. Please read everything. Stop scrolling past and skipping past these. ECR is expert consensus ranking. Throw it out the window. There's two factors going on here, as Meaney said. First of all, especially early in the week, a lot of times people are like posting out rankings based on last week ahead of time on like Tuesday morning, just to like already get them out there and be like, so way off. News hasn't even happened. Projections haven't even happened. And then the other part is like, even right now while we're talking, there's like now 180 some odd people over doing these expert consensus rankings, and like 40 might have them in there. So I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know if Meaney said they're asleep at the wheel. And then the other part of it is like, even as we get deeper in the week and deeper in the week and deeper week, still don't know what people are thinking. But a lot of people are like, just trying to go with the flow, and you end up getting a group think anyway. And you'll see that because people have pointed this out to me in years past, Meaney, and I know you have seen it too, is like right now, McMillan is who we're going to talk about. He might be plus 27. By the time we get to Sunday, he'll be like plus 6. Still, you see the group think happen, and like people kind of like, I don't want to say like they're purposely gaming, but like, they kind of move with the flow. So again, I say all to say is I don't know what everybody else is thinking. I would get rid of that column in the ranks if I could, but you can't take it out of the widget. So anyway, on the flip side of things, real quickly, the World Series are about to happen. I'm ticked off because I'm still going to be here next Wednesday. I didn't want to be here next Wednesday because it was the only day I could figure out that would work with the NFL schedule where I could head up to New York, watch a game, and come back. I was going to do it. Lifetime experience. Never been to a World Series. I was going to drive with Nicole. That's not happening because the magic wore out. I told you it was coming. I told you the magic was wearing out at some point. But do want to get your thoughts. Let's do it. Who are you taking first in the World Series? Meaning, are you taking the Dodgers or the Yankees? I want neither of them. I just hope that, like, is there a way they both can lose?
My heart says that the Dodgers and Ohtani. I guess I still have a soft spot for Ohtani, but I feel like the more I think about it, and I was thinking about it yesterday doing our predictions over at FTN Fantasy, just a few of us quick little hits and World Series MVP and maybe a future World Series prop in there. I think that the Yankees may actually get it done. Just feel like they actually have a rotation at the moment. I know the Dodgers are rolling through the bullpen. They've had great bullpen games, but like, will that catch up to them? I think the biggest difference with the Yankees right now is Stanton's playing. And when Stanton is hitting, we know that Soto and Judge are going to hit. So when you add him to those two, what they can do, I think they can match what the Dodgers can do offensively. So I kind of lean with the Yankees, and I don't want that to happen. I'd say it goes the distance. I say we see 7 games.
7?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't want either one of them, honestly. Like, you could not. The only thing that could have been worse than this is Yankees Braves for somebody who was a Mets fan. Like, this is the this is the second possible worst thing. I'm sick of the Dodgers too, honestly. I'm sick of the Yankees. Like, well, I'm only so sick of the Yankees, but it's the Yankees. They have the history. So I'm actually, yes, I'm going with the Yankees because I think they survived their like it's similar to like Jordan Love last year. They got through their downturn. They got through like everybody was like, oh, are they even going to make it through this round of the playoffs? And they kind of, to your point about what you kept saying about the Mets, they had some magic. It wasn't so much magic. It's just that they had the grit to get through it. And they had the depth to get through it. When no Aaron Judge, like, is Aaron Judge going to show up? And they got through it. So I'm going with the Yankees as well because I think they have less questions up and down that roster. They don't need to go to a bullpen game like the Dodgers might have to. Right. They don't have a dude limping to first base every time he gets onto the field. So it's like, and as of right now, like the whole, like Aaron Judge isn't even carrying this team right now. So I just, I'm going Yankees in 6, and I'm actually going Juan Soto. I think like this dude. What you think? 12 years, 650? Like that's what I'm thinking. Like you have to go at least 12 years, and you're gonna have to go at least 600 million because you know we're gonna get to football. I promise. Like seriously, you're telling me that like Cohen's not gonna come to him like starting out at 6, he might start out 10 for 60 and there's 60 each year and then push it up to 12 for, I guess that would be 720. I like
crazy. And he's backed it up this year. He really has. Like this was even before this year's, those numbers like 500, 600 were flirted out. And, you know, a lot of people like, man, like he's kind of overrated. He's not doing a whole lot. He's walking, he's not hitting. And this year he's been awesome. I mean, it's such a great fit for him too at Yankee Stadium.
This is so nuts. He's turning 26 in 2 days.
Yeah, you just really forget how young he is. I mean, my old man is a Washington fan. He moved over there when the Expos left, and I remember watching the World Series with him when he took Verlander deep in the World Series. He was just a child, man. Like I don't even know if he could buy a drink at Applebee's. He was that young at the time. So you forget how young he is. He's got such a great eye at the plate. Yeah, he's going to get whatever he wants. I think he stays with the Yankees, but it'll be hard to, if he wants $650 million and the team offers it, maybe he does go that way.
Right. But I wasn't even joking when I said if I'm Cohen, I immediately say, Soto, we're starting at 6. Hey, by the way, I'm calling up Corbin Burns and I'm starting at 4 for Corbin Burns. Like I'm pulling what the Yankees or the Dodgers did last year. I'm pulling like $1 billion for 2 players. You think he can't afford that? And
maybe
the thing is, it's like everybody goes nuts, but
did.
Yeah, it's $1 billion over 10 to 12 years. It's not like it's $1 billion up front.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously still a lot of money, but you can restructure it the way that Shohei did. All Shohei's money is at the back end of the contract, so they could stay competitive. I think that was pretty strategic and smart.
It was, but also they had. I mean, the Dodgers have one thing that the Mets won't have with these two. I mean, they will have it with Soto, no question. They'll have the revenue, but the revenue for the Dodgers on top of Ohtani, not even including the ticket sales and stuff like that, is a whole nother level. Anyway, back to football. This is why we do timestamps. If you just jumped ahead to the spot in the podcast, we talked baseball, and you probably saw that and we're like, football, please. I want to get back to it.
These
Thank
guys.
you. Yeah, idiots. Well, we cover everything except basketball. I don't care about basketball anymore. I legitimately don't. Nicole and I were watching TV last night. I was like, the NBA starts tonight, and she said, "That's dumb." I was like, "Thank you."
Saw Brody come in for a minute. That was a cool moment. He took a couple shots, played 2 minutes, took a seat on the bench. Probably won't see him again for a long time.
Forever.
Yeah, maybe.
On the Thursday night football game, real quick on this. If Cooper Kupp plays, you have to put him in your lineup. Yes. Question mark. Here's the interesting thing. We've already got Sean McVay kind of straddling the fence. And he already played this whole game with us with Jordan Whittington. It's like, oh, he's fine. No limitations. Oh, the game plays. Tons of limitations. No Jordan Whittington for most of the game. That was fun. And I say that question mark because, I would slam Cooper Kupp right back into my lineup. However, Sean McVay already said, we'll see how much. And every single team is available this week. That's the only thing. Now, we did lose Brandon Ayuk. We did have other injuries. We don't know if Debo's playing. I do have Debo in my ranks as of right now, so you would see where I rank him. There's a perfect example. By the way, Debo Samuel, plus 82 consensus rank, because I have him inside the top 10, because without Brandon Ayuk, top 10 numbers. But again, not everybody wants to rank him, so it makes it skewed. Anyway, I have Cooper Kupp at 14 because I would start Neighbors, Higgins, Cooper, Diggs, Samuel, Jaden Reed, London. And honestly, I obviously wouldn't start DJ Moore over him, Devontae Adams over him, but I could see cases being made. Terry McLaurin, George Pickens against the Giants now with Russell Wilson. I could see cases being made where, depending on how your draft and waiver options went, you might be able to. Do you think? And again, you're probably starting him, but Meaney, are there any players, right? You see my rankings. Are there any players right behind him that you would actually say, you know what? I think I actually wouldn't risk Kupp because I have blank, somebody behind him.
Maybe just Adams. I understand the Pickens thing. I have Cooper Kupp at 11, so just a couple spots higher than you. So we're kind of on the same page there. I do agree with all of the guys that are ahead, except for maybe Cooper. I know that he was limited last week, and it's a great spot.
Seattle
he's
pass
probably
defense.
fine. Yeah, I get it. But I also think you can throw on Minnesota too. Like, I know that their defense is really good and they stop the run, but they're among the leaders in yards allowed per catch to wide receivers and in fantasy points. And I think that the Rams I think they're showcasing Kupp, but not like they need to. Everyone, he's good and everybody knows he's
good.
You
want to risk him getting hurt?
I think that they do. I think they do. I think that they are throwing the white flag. I think that they're waving it.
So why wouldn't you just be like, look, Cooper Kupp is healthy. Here's like 10 routes. And then bubble wrap the dude on the sideline.
Yeah, maybe. But maybe it's
I
like
make the noise. I almost tried to make the noise. I'm probably glad I didn't.
Yeah. Maybe it's like a vintage Kupp game where it's like, 10 for $112, and it's like everybody sees right there in prime time. This guy still has it. Yeah, we'll give you a second round pick. And
there's no
question.
question.
Of the contract.
If you told me, like Meaney, if you said he's getting 80% of the routes, he would be inside the top 10.
Yeah.
Like it's just, so anyway, moving on from this game, I don't want to spend too much time on it. It's pretty obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just thought there could be a case. TJ Hawkinson back. You have to play him too, right? Because it's tight end. Although I have TJ Hawkinson at 12. So I'll give you who's directly in front of him. Mark Andrews at 11. Hey, Mark Andrews, for all our move on, trade, sell high, but back foot. This is just the truth of Mark Andrews, who he is. Oh, the guy who's directly in front of him, Kyle Pitts. They're the same guy at this point. You might get the touchdown. You might get a top 5 performance. You might also get 23 yards. That's just who they are, and that's where you live in. And what Meaney and I have continued to say along this entire path is, if you have them, just put them in your lineup and just play them. You know who they are now? Their worst plays Jared Cook from back in the day. You can't predict when they're going to have good games because they don't do it in those matchups. They show up when they're not supposed to, and you've benched them. So just put them in your lineup. Get your 8 good games and be happy with it. So in front of them, Andrews, Pitts, Ferguson against the 49ers, I'm fine. Otten all the way, your boy, all the way up at 8 because he might be the leader or second leader in targets. Kraft, Ingram, Njoku, anywhere. Is there anybody in my top 11 that you would sit for Hawkinson? I'm feeling like you're going to say no because it's his first game back too.
Yeah, no, I think I have him at 13. I have Otten. I have Otten at 3 or 4.
I had a Kelsey.
I have like I just said. I think
I love it.
I got Kelsey. I know it's like you're playing Kelsey. You own Kelsey.
That's the thing.
I have Kelsey at 8. Maybe he scores a touchdown. He's probably not even needed in this game. He wasn't needed last time we saw him.
I'm not trying to say we did this a few weeks ago. I'm not trying to say I don't care about those rankings. I do. And, maybe you'll talk me into sliding Kelsey back a few spots. But my whole point in this continues to be the top 10 at running back. Does it really matter? Who's benching? Maybe somebody is benching Kelsey for Otten because he was available. So, you know what? Maybe as I do my projections, and if the projections say Otten in front of Kelsey, boom, I'll leave it. I'll go with it. But kind of who's making the decision of Kelsey for Ingram? Nobody, because Ingram went high enough in drafts that they made that choice. McBride or Kelsey. I'm not going to sweat that decision back and forth. Man, who should I really put at 3? Should have been McBride. Let me dig 15 layers deep into these matchups and cover schemes and no, I'm just not going to think that hard. So who's the one that I have behind?
Two guys. There's 2 guys that
you're going to say Hunter Henry, aren't you?
No, I do have Hunter Henry a little bit higher, but there's 2 guys as we're talking through tight ends that you would bench. I feel like Sam Laporta is the guy that for
you
me
would play
this
over
morning,
Hawkinson?
No, I would play Sam Laporta over Hawkinson. But there's some guys that have moved up here lately. Otten, Njoku, and Kraft. I think those are 3 guys that you could play over a Sam Laporta and a Dalton Kincaid, 2 tight ends that you drafted early that you just have on your roster.
I have Laporta at 15 and Kincaid at 17.
Yeah, the one saving thing for Laporta is that there's no Jamison Williams. I feel like they're just going to run on Tennessee. That maybe now he's the number 2 option, right? There's no JMO this week. So
I will say this. I tweeted this out because Marcus Grant was for NFL was like searching for any reason last week to like say Laporta when I was talking about something. I forget what I was talking about, and he was like, "I'm trying to grasp at straws here." Here's the good news: Sam Laporta has 1 touchdown. It came without Jamison Williams on the field.
Yeah, and it was a trick play.
I know.
It was his only target of the game, and then he sat in the fourth quarter. So as a Laporta owner in one league, I woke up this morning and I saw Cade Otton not claimed, and I was just like, oh, wow. So I picked up Cade Otton, and I may just roll with Cade Otton the rest of the year. I don't like the whole 2 tight ends, but I'm definitely playing Otton this week. I think for Hawkinson, definitely, like, I like it ahead of Goddard, ahead of Komet, ahead of Kincaid, Schultz, these other guys. Yeah, it's
the reason I have Hawkinson definitely over Kincaid, but also over Laporta, is because I don't know. I mean, maybe he doesn't see 100%, but I think he'll see a lot for the fact that they held him out the extra week and then brought him back on a Thursday.
Yeah, the extra week is huge.
The extra, but also being a Thursday, because if you went one more week, as in like said, all right, you know what? We want to make sure he's 100%. You would have gotten all that extra rest on top of it. So to say we're coming back on a Thursday makes me feel like they're feeling pretty good about him. Because
yes, absolutely.
First game back, you use him 90%. He's a little sore and winded or whatever, and now you have the extra rest. Like that, the whole extra rest thing like can go both ways. But I feel like it goes to the point of being like, I feel like Hawkinson's good to go. But
yeah, you waited for him. He's fine, and there is something to be said about Hunter Henry, just with Drake May and what we've seen. I wasn't buying in early on, like I saw the week two, and then I saw a lot of Hooper. I was like, man, like I'm not messing around here with Hunter Henry. But then 14 targets and 11 grabs over the 2 games with May is interesting. Tough spot against the Jets, but I don't think any wide receivers are going to do anything against the secondary. If they do throw the football, it probably will be to Hunter Henry. I think the biggest takeaway too with Andrews, like when we talked earlier, like, just, the back-to-back zeros, I just think because it's the tight end position, like if you get into this situation next year with somebody like that, I think you just have to be patient and just hope that, again, it turns around and there are games, because you're going to have up and downs with all kinds of tight ends. Apart from Bowers and Kittle, like all these other guys have been the same. Yeah. Really, as Andrews, like maybe they haven't given you a 0, but they've given you like 2.4, 3.5. Like, so I said this yesterday on the Sirius show. I think it's the biggest takeaway is like, you just take the highs and the lows. You hope that he scores a touchdown. The biggest thing with Andrews, he's on arguably the best offense in football. And you just hope that there's competitive games for Mark Andrews. This is probably not a game that's competitive, and they just run all over Cleveland. But there's some games where it's like, hey, 55 point total. Maybe the other team can push the pace, and that's what we've seen 3 games in a row with Andrews.
And that's why, again, I'm going to go back to it. That's why I push for the wide receiver / tight end flex spot, not just because again, now your conversation is, do I risk Mark Andrews or do I risk Christian Watson? Or, like those kind of decisions, or Dalton Kincaid or Christian Kirk. Like, it's again, you see these wide receivers aren't like, oh yeah, I'm definitely always starting a wide receiver over the tight end. No, your decisions are still pretty crappy wide receivers. You're kind of chasing like the home, like last week. I could have made the argument. I actually would have, and I did. I was like, I would play Christian Watson over Dalton Kincaid if I had that option as a flex. It ended up being Wicks that got the big play touchdown. The big play in the touchdown, not Watson, and it actually wouldn't have worked. But that's anyway. Let's move on and start to kind of get through these games. You brought up the Ravens at the Browns, so Jameis Winston under center, good times had by all. But in honest, like Christian Watson versus Cedric Tillman, is that a fair toss up to now make? I think so.
Yeah, I would play Tillman.
Okay.
I think,
so that's,
just given the volume, clear kind of, I don't want to say one, but like, him and Njoku are going to benefit here, I think, moving forward. I'm excited about Tillman, and how excited can you get about this offense? But I think, we've seen enough of Jerry Jeudy. Enough.
You want a fun number, by the way, for Jameis Winston that I threw into this article? Since 2020, when Jameis Winston started becoming a part-time quarterback, basically lost the job with the Saints and then just bouncing around here. He actually leads the NFL in touchdown per attempts under pressure. While under pressure, 11.7 touchdown percentage. Caleb Williams through this year is second at 8.5. Again, going all the way back to 2020. Caleb Williams just in this year is second at 8.5, and Brock Purdy's third, 7.0. Third, 7.0. 4.7 percentage points behind his third place. Like, Jameis Winston under pressure is cool, but you also get the interceptions. That's a whole other bag. But that's
you
what's
get a
fun
lot
about
of it. I'm excited for him. I know I saw this morning his contract. There's some like bonuses in it. He gets like $500K for every W he gets. So I'll be rooting for him. I know
he's legitimately eating W's now. Like he's got better food.
Absolutely, well done. He signed like a $4 million contract. I mean, it's not bad for a backup quarterback. I mean, Trey Lance makes $5 million, and he just holds a clipboard. We haven't even seen him at all. So.
Do we know he's actually on the Cowboys? Like, have we ever seen? Like, is this one of those things? Does he exist? Man. Like, have we ever seen the camera pan to him on the sidelines at this point?
Such a weird move by Dallas, and they have all kinds of cap space, and they don't care about backs or wide receivers. It's just such a poorly run organization. But yeah, Jameis, man, he's not afraid to chuck it up. He's not afraid at all. You can lock in on somebody. I'm really looking forward to seeing who that guy's going to be. Maybe it will be Judy, but I think Tillman offers a little bit more, and definitely think that David Njoku is. As we said, I think earlier in the week on Sirius, he's in the circle of trust. Watch him have like two for 1 and 19. But I do believe that he's going to be leaned on. And Chubb, as we're talking about this game, is a guy that I'd be hesitant to start. I know you've been waiting for him, and he scored a touchdown last week, but I really don't like this
still
spot
have him in the 20s
at all. Do you?
That's another one. Like, who are you going to bench him for?
Him.
I have him at 27 because Raheem Mostert behind him. Yes, to his back, but splits. Rashad White splits. Stevenson against the Jets splits. Dowdle, I hope, ends up. Mike McCarthy hopefully got his head out of where during he had an entire bye week to pull it out, so hopefully that happened.
Can't
but
say that.
Dowdle at 31, Tracy 32, Goodson at 33, Irving split. All these are splits. That's what. So he's basically the highest non-split running back, but he's also behind leaders of splits in Chase Brown, Tank Bigsby are in front of him, David Montgomery are in front of him. I still have Najee Harris because he's facing the Giants in front of him. So
maybe a little bit too high on Najee. I have him as a top 20 back this week. There's a lot of guys that are just in this range of like Tank Bigsby, Najee, Jones. I'm probably a little sour on Connor, JK. There's Javonte. There's some guys in a good spots, Jake, and some guys that are in bad spots, like Chubb, like Tony Pollard, like Chuba Hubbard. But I have Chubb at 29.
Is Tony Pollard really in a bad spot anymore after we saw?
Yeah.
You still think? You still think he's a bad spot?
He's up against the Lions. Like, he can get all the touches he wants, but they're not moving
they weren't
the football
as
down
fearsome.
the field.
Yes. All right. Well,
I think he's in an awful spot.
We're talking about this game, Titans at Lions. There you go. Boom. So, Tony Pollard, how far down would you start Pollard or Chubb? You got to start Pollard, right?
I got Pollard ahead of him one spot. Or no, 23. I got him at 23 and Chubb at 20.
So do you have Montgomery?
The volume's going to be there, the opportunities, but this offense is just, it's so bad, man. And I was watching it last week against Buffalo, and that was a good spot too. Nobody had a lot more yards per carry.
But do you have
the Bills 16
Spears
for 61?
In your rankings?
I do. I have Spears like late. I don't think it matters if he plays or not.
So if Spears didn't play, you wouldn't move Pollard up just because of the volume?
No. I'm expecting Spears not to really be a factor at all anyways. Even if he does play.
The first question before that. So I have Pollard barely inside RB2 level, like you do. Actually, where'd you have him?
23.
Okay, yeah, he's barely inside. Did you have Montgomery or Pollard?
Montgomery.
See, I say
just lean with Montgomery on the better offense. He probably scores a touchdown.
But I go with the volume, and we keep talking about the Titans' defense. That's why I lean Pollard because if you're going to give me the two, I'm going to give the one with 18 to 20 touches versus the one with 13.
Sure, but there's a better chance that Montgomery outscores Pollard.
Better chance to score a touchdown. I'll give you that.
And that would be enough because Pollard's not scoring. The Titans aren't going to score any points, really.
Where did you end up with Calvin Ridley after this change, or have you moved him yet? I have him at 38 now.
Yeah, I moved him in around there. I had him at 48. I have him just inside the 40.
You know what this is? I should almost section out this tier. So I go 34 Dobbs, 35 Shakir, 36 McMillan, 37 McConkey, 38 Ridley. It's the same dude on 5 different teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Mason Rudolph, when he took over late last year, he did make George Pickens a thing. So maybe with Ridley
He's
gone,
trying.
like there's more targets. Yeah,
The
he's
target
trying.
share is there.
Yeah, but they're just uncatchable. And
That's
now, if you're a defense, like I said, what are you going to do? You're going to stack
Yeah,
the
but-
box.
Well, so
and
here's
you're
what you
going to
got.
just double Ridley. Yeah,
Before we
I
move
can't
on from this
season.
game, this is one that I tweeted out yesterday too. That comes from like a lot of times I just tweet out some of the really cool ones that I end up putting in the article. No player in all of football has a lower catchable target percentage than Calvin Ridley, who has at least 20% of his team's targets. So you might have like, I did 20% of his team's targets to make sure like they were highly used too. Like I didn't want to just put the baseline as 25 targets because it could be 25 targets still being the third option on a team. So 20% or more of his team's targets, 52.9% are catchable. Oh,
Crazy.
barely over half. Next lowest for at least 20% of his team's targets, Cortland Sutton's at 58.7, also pretty damn terrible. But here's the thing. Third is 69% catchable. Third place. And that's Marvin Harrison. By the way, something we talked about on the waiver show, it's not just Marvin Harrison, who also, by the way, is actually better in drop percentage than Justin Jefferson. And who was the other one? There was another big name right around him. So it's not all Harrison. And if you watch the games, you've seen this, Meaney. I've seen it. It's also because Kyler Murray's passes are going 15 yards over top of his head. So they're not
And
catchable.
Kyler can't see over the line of scrimmage. It was very evident in that game. I hate to be that guy, but it was very evident. And that was
Tightest.
the game plan for the Chargers. The first like 3 drives, all the Chargers offensive linemen had their hands up like that. They were batting down passes. And if you saw the play, the defensive players, yeah. And if you saw the play, Josh Norris tweeted out of just down the field. Beat his man one-on-one with a great route and was wide open
Didn't
down
see
the
him.
field. And
That was
Kyler
the one that
didn't
we
even see
saw.
him.
Was it
He's
week 1 or
just
2?
running around
where
in
Harrison
circles.
was just.
Yep, very similar against the Bills week 1, but this one was just a straight one-on-one on the left side of the field. He should have even had his eye on him. He had the matchup he wanted to have, and he just kind of scrambled around in circles and whatever. But yeah, anyways, I'm concerned about Marv moving forward. There's no question.
So the other people in this game, Tua's back. Well, at least all the reports are Tua's back.
Yeah, where'd
Obviously,
you
things
rank
can
Tua?
change. Oh, where did I rank Tua? Or I was going to
Yeah.
more focus on the other players. So wait,
Just
what's going? I have Tua at 11. What's? I'm curious. What's going on over here? Like you're grinning for people that aren't watching over on YouTube. If you want to go check it out, Meaney loves this T-shirt, by the way. As I
I do.
lean back,
I do.
The powers
Lean
combined
back.
to
Yeah,
a hot dog.
hot dog.
Oh, yes.
Best.
So wait. So where you? Am I too high or too low according to what your question? Like what were you insinuating?
I was just curious,
Do you
like,
have
because the matchup is so good. I put him at 7, and I'm like, man, maybe I'm a little crazy here, because I saw like a couple people at FTN had him like in the mid to late teens, and
I don't even hate
picked,
7.
Yeah, I picked him up. I think in our work league, I was rolling like Jared Goff or Baker, and I'm just like, I think I'm going to spend a little bit of fab here. I had all kinds of money left over. I'm like, I'm going to spend some fab, be aggressive, and roll with Tua here against Arizona. It's just such a really good spot. But yeah, I think you're just playing everyone. Like Tyreek back in top 5, Waddle's back as like a wide receiver 2.
I didn't ask you where you had Winston.
Is back. Oh man, not high. Late teens, I think.
Really? Well, that's still high. I'm at 17.
Not. Yeah, I mean, just a super flex play. Definitely ahead of
Hey,
Anthony
he might be a
Richardson.
starter. Hey, right. I have him in front of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, it's fair. Again, that's why I don't like Kelsey this week.
I have him in front of
Like,
Dak
you have Kelsey, you're
Prescott.
playing Kelsey. Yeah. Yeah.
Aaron
But,
Rodgers against the
so-
Patriots.
I actually like Rodgers this week. His best game of the season came against the Pats. I think he's I could see Rodgers finishing as a top 12 quarterback this week.
Okay. Well, it's so funny that this continues. I don't know how this is happening. I haven't planned it. We keep segueing into next games with the players that we're talking about because we
Love
segue. This is now the 4th game in a row because we went from the bet. Like, so we talked about the Ravens and the Browns because it was Winston, segued into that with Mark Andrews and headed into looped in Calvin Ridley, which we headed to the Titans and the Lions, which ended up looping in Kyler Murray, which ended up looping in now Aaron Rodgers. This is terrific. This is like the best segue show ever. And I just ruined it by pointing it all out. But now Jets at Patriots. Devontae Adams, for everybody out there that didn't know in that first game, is something I said. Like, I had him in the top 20. Guess what? I have him in the top 20 again. He ran all but one route in the first game. Had the same amount of targets as Garrett Wilson. It's just there was a rapport rust, and I think that we see that being fixed. On the flip side, I think the bigger question in this one, Ramondre Stevenson, doors blown off, but he still had almost 60% of the rushes. I'm okay with him still as an RB2. Is that just too much faith in Stevenson being the lead, or too much faith in the Patriots actually being able to hang with the Jets at this point?
Yeah, I think just a little bit too much faith, but I mean, what can you do? Like, you have him at 30. Like, how much? I'm 32. How much further can you push him? I have him as a sit this week. Just in these videos that I do at FTN, just pick a couple guys, and I try not to be obvious, but
Nick Chubb or Ramondre Stevenson.
I mean, I got Chubb a couple spots higher.
There you go.
Yeah, that's where we go. I mean, you can't trust this offense at the moment. Mayo is taking an interesting approach all year with his comments. He called his team soft after that game. And I saw some JaMychal Hasty. Like, Ramondre's not catching passes. He's getting third down situations. It's not even Gibson. JaMychal Hasty was on the field catching passes and doing.
You want something on top of this? I pointed out in the article. Even if you excused the Mario Douglas sickness and put him as the number one wide, like if you put him in as the number one wide receiver for this last week, saying like, because he was the number one the week before, this is where I'm going with it. So let's just say he wasn't sick, he was the number one again. Even if it still would have been every single game, the Patriots have rolled out a different top 3 wide receiver trio.
I can trust it.
Like, every single week. It might be the same person in the lead 2 weeks in a row. The third option might be, but every single week, the top 3 has been different.
Yeah. And it's tough to trust. It's like I said, Mayo's doing some different things, different rotations, and I kind of get it.
Figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Try to figure this thing out. Polk has had a bad couple of games. He's dropping balls. He's running wrong routes. He's falling on the field. There was one play they had a play drawn up for him in the red zone, and he fell. I just think,
you know what?
This team's not going to move the ball either.
I'm not coming for any site when I say this. I want to make that clear. So don't be like, oh, he's shading this site specifically. Because multiple sites have done this, so it's not one specific. The fact that Polk on some sites is seen as a great route guy and some sites he's the worst just tells you all about the fact that, like, yes, metrics can be a tool, but also watch some of it yourself.
Yes.
And if you don't have the time, that's why we're here. But, like, Polk has issues both ways. Like, the thing is, by the way, why he can rate in both is because he's good at some routes and bad at others. Like, it's called the route tree. Well, Matt Harmon, reception perception. He kind of breaks that down with his kudos. Shout out to him. Anyway, we got to get through these games. Like, we spent so much time. Start churning through them. Falcons and Buccaneers. Darnell Mooney, boom bust, wide receiver 3. The running back situation ended up being truthful to a degree. It was a committee. It wasn't as bad as people think, because here's what I tweeted out, Meaney. I don't remember if I copied you on this, but I think it's a really good one, and it's something you and I talked about in the waiver show. In that game, up by 7+ points in that game, Irving had 66.7% of the touches, White 33%, 0 for Tucker. Down by 7, White had 57%, Irving only had 36%, and Tucker had 7. It's what we said. Tucker's a little bit involved, about 10% of the touches when you include the in between the scores. And then when they're up by a good amount, you're going to see a lot of Irving. When they're down by a good amount, you're going to see White. So it's very game script dependent. It's clear that White is the passing game option, trying to catch up, pass blocking. So which way would you lean in this game? I know which way I'm leaning, but which way would you? I'm leaning White.
I still have Bucky ahead at 28, and I have Rashad at 30.
Really? I think we're gonna have to.
He's going to catch some more passes, but Bucky was also catching some passes, and he had goal line work. So
I just think with everything happening,
really close.
No Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, and then we're hoping that Baker Mayfield can keep contending in this game. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's going to be more White in the passing game.
It probably will be.
The top 2 targets might be Otten and White,
and it will be. I think that's.
Wait, well, you do? Because we're both super high. I have Jalen McMillan at 36.
I'm at 33. So I'm slightly higher. But
That would suggest that
Yeah,
you don't think those are the top 2 in targets. That's my point.
No, I think it's going to be pretty close. I think Otten's going to be the top guy in targets, and then I think we can get like.
I'm so
6
mad I
catches
didn't have
for
more
each
money in
White
flex.
and to get McMillan.
Yeah, you bastard.
Did I get him?
Yeah. You didn't even
broke
check?
it.
Oh, you should.
Well, I mean, it just happened, didn't it? Yeah.
At 9.
Oh yeah, man. There's too much stuff going on for me at 9.
Jerk.
You know what? It's funny. I was adjusting in a lot of my leagues. I was adjusting last night, and then I think I had McMillan maybe at like $38, and then I saw the SiriusXM host league. He went for like 76, and everybody was like high 50s, and I didn't need him over there, so I didn't even put in a bid. And I was like,
So
maybe I'll head back over and see if I can grab this guy.
Juwan Jennings went for 59. Next closest was 56, 47 for you, 37 for me. I only had the 39, 40 or something like that. I almost capped out. 35, 26, like almost everybody bid on Jennings. You got McMillan at 47. I was the second closest at 37. And then Jamie Eisenberg was down at 16. That's a huge gap difference. Jacoby Myers went for 17. Next closest was 11. Cedric Tillman went for 12. Next closest was 9. You threw 26 on Tillman, but you didn't get him because you already picked up McMillan. And then who else? Troy Franklin went for 5 to me. That's who I got. I got Troy Franklin. How bad did you need wide receiver?
Not that bad, but I just really liked those 4. So my thinking was when we chatted yesterday, I was like, okay, Jennings and McMillan, they're going to be similar bids for me, aggressive on both of those guys. And then the next tier would be Tillman and Franklin. And I got this feeling about Franklin. Sean Payton said it a couple weeks ago. I mean, Sutton's probably still going to be the guy that's out there a lot, but there is a connection with Bo Nix and Franklin. And we're seeing now, 2 weeks ago, he was outside. He was getting more run. He had the touchdown. Last week, he was definitely getting looks from Bo Nix. So it's going to be inconsistent. It's not going to be a high scoring squad, but he's trending up, and Tillman is a guy that we're going to be talking about the rest of the year.
So I agree. And moving on, Packers, Jaguars. We just talked about a little bit earlier, Watson versus Wicks. They're almost about 50% of the routes each. It's going to be a guessing game. You can try and chase it. If you want to try and chase Watson again this week, it didn't work last week, but he does dominate this team when it comes to yards per route run against cover 1. 2.73 yards per route run. 13th overall in the league. Wicks is actually 5th on his own team, behind even Malik Heath. So another touchdown for Wicks coming.
One thing I'll say, when he's on the field, he does get targets, but it's just not.
He does. It's, of course. Yeah. Tank Bigsby, we already talked about. I would consider selling high with their schedule coming up. Again, we talked on the waiver show. Don't need to spend too much time on that. But the Dearness Johnson and the passing downs, actually even getting some red zone looks. Again, going forward for the Jaguars, how many games do we really expect them to be in contention or even the lead? Probably none. And right now they get the Packers, and then they go to at Philly versus Minnesota and at Detroit before they face their Week 12 bye. We have Bigsby as top 20 running backs, but I'm assuming, am I speaking for you? Did I get that right? You do?
I'm slightly higher than you, but yeah, we do.
Okay, but a good sell high opportunity too. So Colts at Texans. Here's another insane stat that you want real quickly. How about this one? Jonathan Taylor, you know he hasn't played since week 4, right? He's, by the way, 3rd in the league in goal line carries. Still.
Wow.
Is that not nuts?
That is nuts. I believe you, but I don't want to.
So the top 2, do you want to guess the top 2? He has 9 goal line carries. The top 2 are tied with 11.
Yeah, I mean, Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Henry and...
You called him a stud yesterday that nobody wants to respect. Still, since middle of last year, a stud that nobody gives respect.
Yeah, man, it's Mixon.
No.
Kyren
Williams.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. You get the stud thing. I didn't think I said Kyren yesterday, but yeah, you're right.
It might have been Monday on SiriusXM.
You're right. I did say that because I was looking at the last 18 games of Kyren Williams, and they've just been like unbelievably good, and all the volume has been there. So tough spot tomorrow, but baller.
So for this next game for the Colts at Texans, actually it's still in this game. Where do you have Stroud? That's my question.
Oof. Playing behind Tua. I mean, you gave up some really good numbers on Monday. Made me think a little bit more about CJ Stroud. I got him at 14. I do like the spot against the Colts.
I know. This is one of the ones that I'm going to let the projections push me down if I need to. I still have him at 8 because the numbers that I gave out, and I referenced in here too, is that the fact he's just been under pressure in the passing game like no business. And the interesting thing is it actually is more of a Nico Collins thing than just the offensive line. It's both, but under pressure, CJ Stroud with Nico Collins, almost a 60% completion percentage, is 11th best. And his EPA, all pressures, EPA under pressure is all negative for everybody. The league average is actually minus 0.53, but he's actually 5th at minus 3.8. He's actually one of the best, despite being minus, one of the best EPAs under pressure with Nico Collins. The problem is without him, 23rd and 24th. The completion percentage under pressure without Nico Collins, 33.3%. It's bad. Amazing. And that's without Nico Collins going through last year too, to make sure like all the snaps that maybe Nico Collins wasn't on the field last year where he was under pressure. So issue is Nico Collins, but again, it's the Colts, so maybe I need to skew this down a little bit. We'll see. Saints at Chargers. I do like Bug Memes more as a flyer this week, if you didn't listen yesterday. If Chris Olave plays. If Chris Olave does play, do you have him as high as I do, Meaney? So I have Chris Olave at 21 if he plays against the Chargers.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm a couple spots lower.
Oh, that's also with Derek Carr, by the way. This is a double down. This is Derek Carr and Olave together.
And I think we're being a little optimistic that that's going to happen for the Saints this week.
Which one? I don't know. It sounds more optimistic for Derek Carr than it does Olave.
Yeah, I mean, he's out there. Carr is, and I don't think Olave has practiced yet, or I don't know what stage he's in when it comes to concussions. But yeah, if he does play and Olave does play, it should be a lot of volume, for Chris
Olave.
A
concerning stat on the flip side of this, on the Charger side. I know I tagged you on this one. I actually think I texted you with how bad this is because we were talking about our boy J.K. Dobbins. He is seeing bell cow work. 5th in the league in his running back touch percentage since week 3 when he took over, when that kind of shift happened after the first 2 weeks. He's 5th in the league. 77% of his touches. 0 goal-to-go rush attempts. Only 1 inside the 5 on the season in that entire span. By the way, every other running back with at least 61% of his team's touches have at least 3 of those each. The Chargers, here's the insane thing. This is the insane, this is what I want to get to. So they run a lot. They're actually one of the highest. I think they're 2nd or 3rd in rushing percentage in the league.
Yeah.
When it's goal to go, 1st in passing, 71% of the time. The Seahawks are 2nd at 67%. If it's goal line, this is the nuts one. Goal line inside the 5. 83% of the time they pass. The second closest is the Cardinals at 67. What the hell? What the hell is Harbaugh? This has to be the most galaxy brained of they know me. They know I want to run. They know Greg Roman. What they won't see coming is throwing the ball 83% of the time at the goal line.
It's absurd. I wonder how many times they've really been there. I don't know if you gave those numbers and the attempts, because when I picture them and what I've seen from them is that, one, they're not scoring a lot.
Right.
They're one of the least scoring teams in the NFL. J.K. Dobbins is among the leaders in explosive runs. A lot of his touchdowns have been big time runs. So I wonder how often they've actually had those situations. And when I watched the Arizona game, I mean, you call it on Monday's show, is Kamani Vidal. Mm-hmm. He was in there when they got inside the red zone. He had 2 touches, 2 opportunities. One was a carry, and then another one he ran a route. And then I think they settled for a field goal. So yeah, maybe they just don't trust JK as the goal line back. Maybe you're really on to something. Should they get inside the 5 or the 10, they're actually gonna look at Kamani. But that's a very, very interesting, because you're right, their run percentage is extremely high. It's one of the highest rates in football, and that's what they want to do. But I credit Harbaugh in that game, or Roman. They adjusted their game plan and they let Herbert chuck the football because Arizona was selling out to stop the run. And I feel like teams may do that. I know that Herbert's really good, but teams may start to sell out I'm really intrigued to see how, because the matchup's good against the Saints. So I'm really intrigued to see how he does this week.
So to your point, they have 13 plays.
It's a healthy amount of plays.
It's a healthy amount. It's actually not the worst. The worst is the Patriots at 5, tied with the Eagles. Your Eagles, only 5 goal-to-go plays on the season.
Yeah, until tush push, most likely.
Yeah,
I mean,
so it's
I think
Patriots,
I said this to you
Eagles,
on Monday.
Broncos, Saints, Chiefs. Chiefs are actually they only have, where's their rushes? 6 and 6.
Because they haven't been a really
touchdowns.
explosive offense either, right? Some of these teams, like the Eagles, I feel like a lot of their touchdowns have just been like big plays.
They have 21. It's all on the run side of thing. Yeah, the Eagles have 17 runs. Oh, so I got that wrong. They're 20. So the Eagles aren't second. I was looking at the wrong column. So the bottom 3 are actually Patriots at 7. And then, second is the Cowboys at 13. And then the Cardinals, 14. Those are the bottom 3. And total attempts, both combined. But the Chargers are middle of the pack.
Yeah. It's a crazy number. Because you would think that they would run a little bit more.
You would think. Anyway, let me move on for this. Bills at Seahawks. Josh Allen and Amari Cooper, we already talked about. Shakir still targeted 20% of the routes that he ran. Yeah. So, again, it's the fact that he's not on their field for 2 wide receiver sets, which hurts him a little bit, but still 20%. If Metcalf is out, Lockett, which I don't have Metcalf in the ranks, I have Lockett and Jackson Smith-Njigba as top 30 wide receivers. Are you with me on that?
Yep. Actually, yeah. Lockett at 30 and JSN at 23. I'm with you.
Nice. Panthers at Broncos. There's only one player in the NFL that has 10 red zone and 10 end zone targets. His name? Deontay Johnson. Will he play this week for the Panthers? That's a double question. Who the hell knows? So moving on from this game, who are you playing? Are you going to take a shot? Actually, who did you rank higher, Troy Franklin or Cortland Sutton? I think that's a worthy question to make.
It is. I ranked Sutton, I think, 2 spots higher. I don't have Sutton high, even against the Panthers. I got Sutton at 42 and Franklin at 44.
Why do you love
I think this is a
Sutton?
big Javonte Williams game. It's probably a little high for both of those guys. I mean, Deontay Johnson's around there too. I wouldn't start Deontay Johnson this week. I wouldn't. I would not. I have 35 wide receivers ranked higher than him. Denver doesn't give up anything. Did Andy Dalton get in a car accident this morning or last night?
Yeah, but they said his family was fine. Everybody's fine.
He's fine.
I mean, obviously we have to double check.
Yeah. I mean, the offense is trash. It's trash. It's brutal against good teams. What did they do last week against Washington? Did they even score a point? I don't even know. They have Denver, and Denver's defense is legit, man. They don't give up anything. So is Surtain back? Forget about it. Chuba's in an awful spot too. I'd play him just based on volume, but Deontay, not doing it. And
the
if I was an owner,
straight from the article, the Broncos allow the 6th fewest yards per carry at 4.1, 5th lowest yards before contact at 1.14, and the 11th highest stuff percentage is what they have. So I'm more concerned about the run game. But anyway, Chiefs at Raiders. Yeah. Kareem Hunt is 4th in his team rushing attempts since week 4. He is just dominating the touches.
League winner, man.
Updated and took out Mecole Hardman because now it's DeAndre Hopkins. Jacoby Myers, we already talked about. We already covered this game. So let's move to the Bears and Commanders. DeAndre Swift has seeded. Actually, what do you think the percentage of touches on 3rd and 4th down for Roschon Johnson are?
I would say they're probably pretty high.
Let's throw out a number.
I'd say he's 34%. I don't know.
Of the 3rd and 4th down touches? Just 3rd and 4th down touches?
Yeah.
The last 3 weeks, Roschon Johnson, 3 games. Roschon Johnson has 77.8% of the 3rd and 4th down touches.
Higher than I thought. I thought Swift had a couple 3rd down. I thought Swift had more 3rd down stuff. But I did see Roschon getting in there.
The biggest thing, though, is their schedule is so cake still all the way until you get to week 11. So I would look to sell high on Swift if you can, but you don't have to. Just know it's coming. And then week 11, it really turns tough, pretty tough. Terry McLaurin, a perfect 5 for 5 for 95 yards with Marcus Mariota. Assuming there's no Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin still top 20 for you? Or Marcus Mariota against the Bears is more concerning?
Yeah, Marcus Mariota against the Bears is a little bit more concerning, but I have him as a top 25 guy. And not,
25, so not kind of top 20.
Yeah, I think you're still playing him. You're encouraged with what you saw last week.
Would you go Tank Dell fresh off a 0 or Terry McLaurin with Marcus Mariota?
I have Tank at 30, so I would go.
So you go Terry
with Terry.
Would you go Garrett Wilson against the Patriots or Terry McLaurin?
I would go Garrett Wilson. I was still
Here's
pretty
a good
encouraged
one.
with him getting 9 targets. So
would you
he's
go
inside the top
Jalen
25.
Waddle? Assuming everything is just rectified with Tua, first game back. Jalen Waddle over Terry?
Yeah. I got him at 20.
Wow. Smith and Jigba?
I'm high on Tua too. Would go JSN over Terry in a PPR league, but I think I would lean with. They're pretty
Everything
close.
else?
They're side by side in the
Okay.
rankings. Yeah.
Cowboys at 49ers. Rico Dowdle, by the way, 0.12 EPA per play. Better than Aaron Jones and James Conner. And yet, he is losing touches to Ezekiel Elliott minus 0.69. Zeke ranks 96 out of 105 eligible running backs. And I say eligible running backs because that also includes fullbacks who have had RB touches. 96. Anyway, we talked about the 49ers at length yesterday on the podcast. Do you have Debo in your ranks?
I do. I have him as a top 10 guy. If he
Where
plays,
so I wanted to ask, you do have Debo in your ranks, so where did you put Juwan Jennings with Debo in your ranks?
I put Juwan Jennings at 23 or 24.
Why do you love Juwan Jennings?
Still like him. Maybe a little high, but I think those.
Do you have Juwan Jennings in front of Tyler Lockett?
I do, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I actually go Lockett without DK over Jennings with Debo. I would. Jordan Addison versus Juwan Jennings?
I have Jennings higher, slightly.
Okay. I'm not going to say you're wrong. It's just they're in that same bucket. How high would Ricky Purcell go for you if there is no Debo Samuel?
40?
40?
38?
Would you push Jennings? Jennings? They just combined his names.
Yeah,
Would you push Jennings up to top 15?
Yeah, I just don't know how much further. Like, sure, I could get him up there. Maybe ahead of Waddle and Devontae and Garrett Wilson.
No, I was going to give you one straight toss-up. George Pickens against the Giants or Juwan Jennings with no Debo Samuel?
Man, I probably would go with Pickens.
Yeah.
But although I think you have Russell pretty high, and I know it's the Giants, I just think that they're going to run the football. Like, I have Najee pretty high. I'm sure Russ will get his. Maybe he tosses a touchdown too. He's not going to run one in again.
I'm not worried about Russell Wilson under the Giants' pressure because that's something they can handle, and the offensive line can handle. I have Russell Wilson at 12. I have Russell Wilson in front of Kyler Murray against the Dolphins defense. Do people not realize it? Jalen Ramsey, by the way, who people used to give all the respect to, still deserves the respect because have you seen his numbers this year?
Yeah,
he
fantastic.
Is locking people up.
Well, they've allowed the fewest passing yards, their third fewest quarterback completion percentage against, only 3 passing touchdowns allowed, only 9 fantasy points to quarterbacks. Yeah, they've been money. I'm with you on Kyler. The concerns. I mean, concerns anyways. Without a couple big rushing touchdowns, this guy's
look at that. We segue right into this game again as we finish things out. So the Giants actually lead in sacks per dropback, 12.6%. Second is the Broncos. Third is the Jets, 10.3 and 9.3. Pretty high number. The Steelers allow the 5th highest pressure if you want to go that route, 39.8. Again, the offensive line is going to give it up. But again, to go back to, I'm not that concerned about Russell Wilson, but that at least made me hesitate to say, because I did the rankings and then I went through this, and this is why I do rankings, then this, then projections, and come back around. I might slide Russell Wilson down a few spots seeing all that. I mean, you're talking about the highest sack percentage and then the 5th highest pressure rate allowed. That's not a great combination.
No, it's not. I just think it'd be heavy. Najee's going to get 20-plus opportunities. They're not going to be able to stop the run. He's got back-to-back 100-yard games.
That's the bigger thing. And you want to hear something nuts? Another one. As we get out of here, a stat that you might not believe. Weird but true with Jake Ciely. Here we go. Higher catchable percentage. 77.4% of his passes or targets being catchable versus 66.7% of his targets being catchable. Who do you think had the higher number, Justin Fields or Russell Wilson? obviously this is a loaded question and the answer is clear now, but Justin Fields actually was throwing 77% of his passes catchable to George Pickens. For everybody that's like, oh, Russell Wilson fixed everything, blah, blah, blah. Both actually those passes were not really catchable. One should have been an interception, and then we know about the other one. But here's the good news. The real big boost, obviously, this is where it comes from. 16.9 air yards per target versus 12.5. And then 3 red zone and, these are two different things, 3 red zone and end zone targets in his first game with Russell Wilson compared to 7 and 4 over the first 6 weeks.
Right.
So there's where your boost comes from.
Yeah. And I saw this on ESPN last night. I took a picture. Was just, I mean, the difference between the two in terms of the passing yards and the rushing yards, obviously higher with Russ, and it's just one game sample size, but they scored 37 points in that game. And I was thinking at the time, I was like, man, I don't remember the last time the Steelers scored that many points. It had to be like Big Ben. It was since 2021, the most points. Like 37 is a high number, but you feel like a team would fall into that, especially with their defense being so good and a couple defensive scores. So good first game from Russ. But yeah, the big takeaway for me is that George Pickens, I think we could just feel better about him in our lineups, just given I think Russ still has a pretty decent deep ball and good accuracy.
I mean, I'm pretty high in the ranks.
Yeah.
With all that being said,
guy.
Before we get out of here, Chris Meaney, fun with rankings. I did my top 10 road trip artists. Who would be the first artist you would throw in on your playlist when you're heading for a road trip?
Maybe like some Zeppelin or Petty, Chili Peppers.
Red Hot Chili Peppers are 4th for me. I don't have Zeppelin or Petty, and I know people are gonna. That's just never been my style.
Yeah.
Those are two very common. I was going to say they're very common.
Linkin Park.
Linkin Park was 2.
Nice.
Notorious was 7.
I think you're a big, obviously, a little bit of Biggie there. Wu-Tang. You probably got some Wu-Tang
3.
in there. I think you're a big Blink 182 guy.
That's number 1.
Wow.
You think Meaney knows me
Jake
well?
Ciely.
Wow. I know. So
Pretty much
hold on.
all those.
Let's see. I was going to say,
crap.
so you've got Blink was 1. Lincoln 2,
Blink's
Wu-Tang 3, Red Hot Chili Peppers 4,
Wow.
Biggie was 7. All right, so you've missed 5, 6,
probably
8,
don't
9,
have
10.
anything left in me.
Come on. You can, you missed. Okay, you've got 1 hip hop / rap.
Yeah.
You've got 1 mega pop star, rock pop star, mega huge controversy, and then you have.
Controversy.
I mean,
killing me. I don't know. I did my part, man. I'm surprised I rattled
Michael
off a few of
Jackson.
them. I know you don't like any country. Oh yeah, MJ.
Michael Jackson's 5, Eminem 6. There's your hip hop.
Yeah.
So 8, 9, 10. I don't expect you to possibly get any of these. I'll give you 8 is a number. They're just chill. Alternative rock.
Oh man.
What's the number you guys dial for information back in the day when we used to actually use phones for things? Up there in Canada. I'm seriously asking. Like, here's 411. That's why I was going to give you the hint. It's very similar to 411.
Yeah.
311. Everybody's screaming at you right now. 311.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think about the number I dialed when I was looking information.
I confused you with that. So 311 is 8. Number 9 is reggae.
Yeah.
Who do you think it is?
It's probably not Bob Marley. You're not a Bob Marley.
It is.
Guy.
The Legend album. That's a road trip.
No, I'm with you. Absolutely.
And then number 10, there's no way in it, but it is one of my all-time favorite alternative rock groups. I really wanted to get Story in the Year in there, but they didn't make the list because number 10 was true alternative, not screamo, but kind of the emo alternative rock. My Chemical Romance is 10.
Oh yeah, but they may not crack the top 10, but got to get them on the playlist for a road trip. Absolutely.
When they went on they did a reunion tour last year, and I was like, "Ooh, honey, we should actually kind of go to this." And then I looked, and I was like, "Nosebleeds, $500. Never mind."
Yeah,
it was the stadium nosebleeds for $500, and I'm like, "Okay, I like you guys," but
D was watching an episode of the OC the other day, and they were on My Chemical Romance. Yeah, OC and like One Tree Hill are shows that she used to watch back in the day, and they actually have
One Tree Hill,
a lot of good bands
filmed very close to where I am in North Carolina.
River Court, just up the road from you. Yeah, it wasn't a bad show actually. They had good bands.
I never watched any of it, but hopefully you guys have listened and watched this show, or maybe tuned out at this point. at Chris Meaney over at FTN. All the tools where I get a lot of these numbers from, and the hockey picks. Meaney, of course, crushing that. And good luck to everybody in Week 8, the wrap-up podcast. I moved to Saturdays because, well, Friday night. I want to get all the injury reports on Fridays because I realized a lot of it was speculation that I got answered on Fridays. So that 10-minute wraparound podcast is now later on Friday/Saturday, and we will be back next Tuesday for waivers, and hopefully Week 8 does not kill us as bad as Week 7.
On that note, we'll see you guys later.